All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Michigan International Speedway. In advance of this weekend's Firekeepers Casino 400, we are joined by members of RFK Racing. We have Michigan native and team owner Brad Keselowski, and we have our most recent race winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, Chris Buescher, up here, who won last week at Richmond. We will go straight to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic for you. We'll start up here with Cameron, and then go to Lee and Steven.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Brad, before Michigan last year, the team combined had just one top 5 finish. Since Michigan last year, you guys have now had 2 wins, 11 top 5s, and 25 top 10s. So just as a team owner, how satisfying is it to come back to the home state of Ford and your home state and, to show off, look how far this team has come since?
Yeah, a lot of progress over the last 12 months. And, we started making progress immediately when I came in. It's just you don't realize it. You make a lot of investments in people and equipment, and, none of them are light switches. And, I feel like about this time last year, we really started to hit some of our investments started to mature, and then, of course, some more during the off season. But things started to come together. I think last year, from this point to the end of the year, we were, both cars were easily top 15 cars. And then this year we've kind of taken another step, and I think we're 11th and 13th right now in our points. But I think we still have more steps to go. Super proud of the progress over the last 12 months. We need to make another leap to be a playoff not contenders, but playoff winning kind of cars, and that's the next level for us that we're committed to. But certainly proud of the progress that we've made and being able to win races and compete for a lot more top 5s, top 10s, laps led. Those are good to see, Cameron, and we're super proud of that.
Go over here to the far right to Lee, and then we'll go to Steven and Matt.
Lee Spencer, catchfence.com. For Brad, I'm just kind of curious, how confident are you with your playoff situation right now?
Well, I think, I'm way more confident in Chris's playoff situation. His looks really good. For us, we're not in a bad spot. I would think we have 4 races left to the playoff start, and it would take 3 new winners for us to be knocked out. It's certainly possible, but probably not likely. Ultimately, we need to go out and still go to perform, and we can't take anything for granted. I think we have something like a 150-point cushion on the cutoff line right now, and 100 on the next one if someone were to win. So that feels pretty reasonable, and I certainly would take that over the alternative of not having a cushion or being behind. But it's not a guarantee. So, we've got a good racetrack for us here in Michigan. This is a track I've had, a number of really good runs and second place finishes and most laps led and stage wins. And I know that all the Fords are loaded for bear, and we've worked really hard to make sure we have a strong showing here with our car prep for all of our cars. And hopefully that bodes well for us come Sunday. But ultimately, you're not in until you're in, Lee, and we ain't in. So, I think if we're able to punch through and get both cars in the playoffs, there's some really good races for us. Obviously having won Bristol last fall with Chris, and that track seems to suit our cars really well. And Darlington was really good for us. I think you look at the rounds Texas last year, we ran really well. Homestead, I think we had a great race. So there's some tracks that really suit us well in the playoffs. I feel like if we can lock both cars in, that we'll make some noise in the playoffs for sure. But first things first, we got to get both cars in.
With this iteration of RFK, right? I mean, you're still in your infancy with you coming on. How important is it as to the company as a whole for both cars to be in? How critical of an accomplishment would that be?
Well, I think it's super critical, but obviously I have my own biases. But I think putting both cars in and really kind of showing to ourselves and to others that we're committed to having the depth across the entire company to be able to win and be a threat on any given Sunday with both cars is super critical to our long-term standing in the sport and performance.
And for Chris, people are starting to tout you as a road course ace for some reason. And, just kind of curious, looking at the next 2 road courses on the schedule, Indy and Watkins Glen, How important is it not to get used up going into turn one, because you want to set the pace for your entire lap, and so that's getting into turn one is crucial for the benefit of the entire lap.
Yeah, it's road course racing has been a lot of fun, and we've been very competitive at them. And fast race cars make me look too good at those kinds of places because it is it's not my background, but it's track that we had fantastic speed at was Indy last year. Both of us were very fast in the race. I think you had the fastest lap of the race. So, it's definitely one that we're looking at. Obviously, lap one led to our highlight reel and being on fire and all that nonsense last year. So, we're definitely trying to pay attention to that one, try and guard yourself against that. I think that the cars have come a long way too. We've made some changes. Industry has to where we don't have to worry about it in the same regard as we did at that point. And hopefully now we can get through it nice and clean, because once you do and kind of establish yourself in the running order, it certainly cleans up a lot as we get into the race. So as we look at what we did with Chicago and the restart zone, obviously we're single file there, which I don't think any of us minded, but obviously with the weather and everything, it was kind of more out of necessity than wanting to be single file. But the restart zone certainly helped clean up turn one, which was a pretty big concern for all of us heading into the weekend, and ended up being all but a non-issue, right? So I feel like some of the changes for Indy will certainly help that as well. The changes, just trying to move the restart zone and try and make it to where we're not driving in there 5 wide. I think that's the big part, is you start on the front straightaway of Indy, if we would have been there at Chicago, but it's just coda. You go into the corner and 5 wide, and some's got to give, and it's usually not a driver. It's usually a toe link or a bumper or something, because we're all a little hard-headed. So, if we can, anything we can do to help smooth that out will certainly be a big help.
We'll go to Stephen, and then Matt, and then Dustin.
Steve Conley, the podium finish. Brad, I want to ask you about Chris, since you've brought him on. Obviously, win last week at Richmond. What have you seen out of him develop just this year? Because he's often looked at as an underrated driver, but really starting to stand out there at RFK.
Well, in fairness to some of my predecessors, I didn't specifically bring him on. He was here before me, and I think more just wanted him to stay. I think I think Chris is very talented. I think he has a very humble approach that is great for building a team and a framework that can be successful and enduring for years to come. And so the roots are all there for him to be successful. I felt like for a while that he was held back by the equipment that wasn't on par with his level of talent, and I'm fully committed to making sure that we have that level of equipment across all aspects of our business. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but I think we're lucky to have Chris, and it's been good for everybody.
And Chris, I actually want to go back a little ways. Next week will be 9 years since your win at Mid-Ohio in the Xfinity Series with Nationwide and Luke Benner. I wanted to ask you some of your memories of that, and if you still have that connection with the Benner family.
Yeah, that's time's flying, but it is cool, and do get to talk to them a little bit from time to time still. So I don't think I've seen them since I think it was probably pre-COVID in Charlotte a handful of years ago now. But it's another one of those road course wins that I guess started the label. But it was obviously a special event to have Nationwide Children's Hospital on the car with that one, and to have the Benner family there with us, and in victory lane for that first win. Certainly a fun one. So I'm sure if it works out, we'll see them at another race. I know Mid-Ohio is kind of their local track, and we don't go there yet in the Cup Series, but I would vote for that one if someone asks. So I'd be in for it.
Going to go over here to Matt and then Dustin.
Matt Weaver, Sports Nut. This is mostly for Brad, but Chris, you can jump into where you want. We talk collectively as an industry about this car and how tightly controlled it is. It's a spec car, and how it's made the racing too close. And it got me thinking about IndyCar and how the damper program is open up for development. It's the one thing on that car that they can open up. Is there something in this car that we could open up to kind of create a little bit of speed disparity that would not like fracture the economic model of the next gen?
Oh, wow, I wasn't really prepared for this one, Matt.
I'm
that
out
was
on
a
this.
smart
This is
question.
all you right here.
Man, I should have put more thought into this one. I think there are some open criteria that we do have that IndyCar doesn't. Some of our engine criteria is open where IndyCar is a little more tightly regulated. So there are some areas that I think are open for development, and we do have fairly robust, aero programs amongst the manufacturers, which somewhat is generated from the team. So. I would be hesitant to say that there aren't areas for development. I think there are, but certainly less than ever before, Matt. To specifically suggest a certain area, I don't know if I have that idea at this time, but I'll put some thought into it, Matt. I can tell you that. But, I think we do see disparities right now. They're not as prominent as they were. I think right now the majority of the fight and contest seems to be on the submittal and homologation of the aerodynamics of the car, and I think we see that fairly routinely through the years, and it hasn't changed fully with the next gen, and so that is going to continue to surface. I feel like last year the Fords had a pretty good car, arguably the best car through the homologation period, and then this year, I think pretty easily the worst car. And conversely, you could probably say Toyota had the worst car last year, and this year has the best. And that seems to show itself more than what we have available to us on the team side. But those things they flip and they flop here and there, and you got to take advantage when you're on top, and try to mitigate when you're behind. So it's hard for me to say there's one area that NASCAR should just open the rule book. I think that these cars were meant to tighten it up, and they've done a good job of that. And maybe that can be argued it's good or bad with respect to parity and passing, but for the most part, I think it's served our sport well.
And then one lighthearted question on SRX, 4 weeks into it. It seems like that's a lot of fun for all of you guys. And what has that experience been like for you now that you've had time to kind of integrate into that?
Yeah, I had a great time, seeing some of the local short tracks that make up our sport, and that's been a blast. And seeing guys I haven't seen in a while. I had a chance to sit down and talk to Casey Kane, and I haven't seen him since he stopped running in NASCAR, and some of the other NASCAR drivers. Then meet the IndyCar drivers that I knew peripherally, but didn't really have a chance to talk to. So. That's been a lot of fun. Ken Schrader and I shared some old NASCAR stories that I always had questions about. So. I keep joking with people that's like the senior tour series, and I'm not sure if I should be proud to be in it or not. I don't feel that old, but they even have this latch so you can get in and out of the door easier. So that really hit me pretty hard. No, it's been fun. It's a nice little piece, without being able to run the Xfinity Series or Cup Series, and I miss those reps. I miss being able to compete in those series, and with the rules changes and the lack of availability for rides for the limited races you are allowed to run, it just hasn't been an opportunity for me. So this fills a nice gap for me in my life and schedule.
Thank you.
No problem.
We're going to go up here to Dustin, and just a reminder, everyone, we're trying to get through as many questions as we can in a limited time. So if you can hold it to one question, and then if we can get to you again with a second question, we will. Go ahead, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Brad, with the new media rights deal for the Xfinity Series with the CW, as you look at your long-term goals and plans, I'm suspecting at some point there might be an Xfinity program in there to kind of build up your people and manpower. How does the media rights deal that's now out there for Xfinity affect that thought process for you?
Well, it's certainly very intriguing. I thought that the announcement for the Xfinity Series was a big win for our industry. To be on, broadcast for all the races for that series. I think that gives us a high level of exposure for that series that hopefully transcends into whatever the media rights deal is for the Cup Series, or at least complements it some way. So that I think that's an exciting moment for our sport that probably is not fully understood at this moment. But if we're fast forwarding the clock, 5 or 10 years, I think we're going to look back at it and say that was a really nice win for the sport. It's yet to be seen what's going to happen also with the Cup Series and the Truck Series, and I'd be remiss to have an answer for you on what our level of involvement will be in the Xfinity Series, but I would like to think that the series being broadcast, it'll be able to attract the partners that we would need to be able to justify that level of investment that it takes to run that series, and ultimately that will be the deciding factor.
Excuse me, this is Roy Akers, MidwestSportsScene.com. This is probably more for Brad, but with the success that you've had with the win last week and with the more top fives in that, do you have perhaps a thought to expand to 3 teams, either competitive, if you hit a competitive goal or a sponsorship goal, or am I putting the cart before the horse?
No, I think we definitely would like to do that. It's easier said than done. For the time being, I think we're quite satisfied with the relationship we're building with the Rick Ware Racing cars, which allows us to kind of add some depth to our roster without going out and buying another charter right now. I think it's maybe well documented, maybe not. I don't know. It's almost impossible to buy a charter. Nobody's selling one. And it's really, no matter what your offer is, you can't buy one. I think there's been some people knocking on the door with a lot of money, and the answer is your money's not good anywhere. Everybody on the team owner side wants to see where the charter agreement goes and where the TV rights deal goes, media rights deal goes, and so there's no charters actually even actively for sale right now. So. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 24 months when this thing gets announced. But ultimately, yes, we would like to get to a 3rd car. It has to be possible, and right now it's not possible. No problem.
All right, Brad and Chris, thank you for joining us, and good luck this weekend here in Michigan.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you all.
Appreciate it.
And we have Ty Gibbs coming up to join us.
You're welcome.